The content of this podcast is provided for general informational purposes only and is not intended as, nor should it be considered a substitute for, professional medical advice.
Sweaty and pissed. Menopause makes me sweaty and pissed.
Well, hello, my little Karen.
Hi, Leanne. Here we are again.
Here we are, Sweaty and Pissed, Menopause and More. I'm Leanne Morgan. I'm a comedian and a mother and a wreck. This is
Karen Nickell, nurse practitioner and person who tries to keep Leanne going best I can.
And mother of Forrest, who produces this for us, who has got on beautiful shoes. It's so cute.
Yes.
I love a suede.
The most patient person on the planet.
He is from heaven.
Yep.
And has to sit and listen to us talk about
whatever.
Vaginal dryness and pinto beans. Okay, I have a good friend. We're going to talk about today. My friend Sally asked these questions, and they're good ones. Mm-hmm. So last episode, we talked about the 5 best books that you tell people to read about health. Mm-hmm. And then this time, we're going to talk about
labs. And I don't mean the kind that
the dogs that
have
you can
4 legs and a tail. Yeah, no. So she asked if someone really wants to know what's going on in their body and insurance is no object, what tests should you ask your doctor to run on an annual basis? How can you use these tests to indicate what your optimum nutrition program should be, including supplements? So
that's a good one.
Yeah, the little caveat she put in there of insurance is no object is a biggie.
Yeah.
Because when you go in for an annual exam, let me just start there. When you go in for your complete physical annually, basically insurance will cover typically a CBC, which looks at your white cell count, looks to see if you have anemia, and looks at your platelet count. A CM is a Mary P, CMP, and that looks at your blood sugar, kidney, liver, and electrolytes. A lipid panel, which looks at your total cholesterol, your LDL, which is your bad cholesterol, triglycerides, and HDL, which is your good cholesterol, and a TSH, which is the thyroid stimulating hormone that tells us how well your thyroid is secreting. So that's about it that your insurance will cover. And any additional tests that happen during that visit, if they do happen, would have to be linked to a problem diagnosis like menopause or fatigue or insomnia or something. We'd have to link it to a problem. We can't link it to your health maintenance code. So that's very limiting. And most providers won't go beyond those 4 tests I told you because they know that's what's going to get covered on your exam. So just remember, even if you go in with a host of labs that you would like to have done, that is likely not to happen, but it never hurts to ask. So I would say the things that would be most helpful, besides those 4 tests, which are helpful, I think maybe not annually, but I think at least once, it's helpful to look at thyroid antibody levels. So that's your thyroglobulin antibody, and that's your thyroid peroxidase antibody, or abbreviated TPO. Just to make sure you don't have Hashimoto's, or, an autoimmune disorder where you're attacking your own thyroid gland. Because we can have normal thyroid levels, normal thyroid hormone levels, and a normal TSH, and have thyroid antibodies. So I think it's just good to check that so you can sort of know what's coming down the pike. Okay,
so if I walked in and I would have to ask for that, probably, right? And what would I ask for? What is that called?
It's called thyroglobulin antibody.
And so you'd say, I need the thyroid.
Thyroglobulin.
They would ask for that.
And a thyroid peroxidase antibody. So again, abbreviated TPO. Yeah, but again, we have to have a diagnosis to link that to. So, and curiosity is not a diagnosis that insurance will pay for. So we can't just do it because you're curious what it is. But it is a test that if no insurance was involved, that would be a good thing just to check and see, hey, do I have this going on? Because some people have no thyroid symptoms, high or low. Their thyroid levels look okay, but they have thyroid antibodies. And in that person, I just make sure we're following that regularly and making sure that thyroid isn't going south at some point. So, or getting hyperthyroid because of the antibodies. So that would be a good thing to check if insurance were not in the picture.
Yeah, in a perfect world.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would probably look at an inflammation marker like CRP or high sensitive CRP, just to measure inflammation. And I would look at some nutrient levels. Now, in a regular lab like Quest Lab or LabCorp, typically most of the nutrients that we really can check are like vitamin A, vitamin E, a few B vitamins, vitamin D. We can check vitamin C. So we don't have a big panel that looks at all the vitamins and all the minerals. If you want to do something like that, then you're talking about getting a specialty lab that you're probably going to have to pay out of pocket for. So I think I've talked about ALCAT testing on podcasts in the past. This is a food sensitivity, but beyond food sensitivity. They check for antibodies to certain foods, to environmental chemicals, to antibiotics and anti-inflammatories, food colorings and additives. So it's looking to see if your body mounts an antibody response to something that you're exposed to.
Okay.
Typically through eating. That ALCAT company is now doing a micronutrient test. And that test, which I've had a few patients do, it does look at all these different vitamins, minerals, amino acids, and checks for healthy levels. And if there are low levels of any certain thing, they have recommendations on supplementing those levels.
Oh,
yeah. So it's a really informative test. They also have an immune system assay that just checks to see how healthy your immune system is. And that can be a really helpful piece of information too. If you want to check out ALCAT testing and what they do, their website is cellsciencesystems.com. I'm doing this off the top of my head, so it's cellsciencesystems.com. And you can look at all their different panels. But again, you'd have to go to a provider who offers that. It's an out-of-pocket test cost typically. But again, we're talking about what would I do if there was no insurance involved.
Right.
So, and if everybody had as much money as they wanted to spend on some blood testing. Those are the main things in terms of lab tests, I would say, would be helpful. The micronutrients, inflammation. I typically wouldn't recommend like searching for a bunch of autoimmune disease things unless you are having symptoms. And if you're looking at prevention, you can always look at something like 23andMe that looks at genetic predispositions for certain disease processes. But some people that information is really, really helpful to them, and some people it just makes them worry. So you have to know what kind of person you are in terms of how you respond to that information.
Yeah, I wonder what I would be. I don't know. I think I could handle that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just everybody's different, and so if you feel like it's going to just make you worry, that's no good, and it's not worth doing, honestly. Or if there's some family history that you're concerned about, like Alzheimer's, then you could do there are specific genetic assays that can be done to see if you're at higher risk, like an ApoE genotype. So rather than doing a whole panel and sort of getting overwhelmed at all this genetic information, you can pick and choose those things too. So, yeah.
Oh, okay. And say you've done all this stuff for me. You've always, and I've done stuff out of pocket, but it hasn't been real bad, but we've done sent off some spit to some places and, and had a ball. So,
that reminds me, that's another thing is places like, diagnostics and, ZRT labs, they do, salivary testing and, checking cortisol levels that way can be really helpful too. But again, you're typically talking about an out-of-pocket cost. You could always file for reimbursement from your insurance, but it would be considered out-of-network, and it sort of depends on what your insurance pays for out-of-network labs. So, but that also is a good test. I'm glad you brought that up.
Well, and I'm just sitting here saying I would not worry if I took a 23andMe or whatever. Is that what it is? 23andMe?
Yeah, 23.
But then, how many times have I called you because I've sat by somebody at a ball game that had a Widowmaker thing? And I said, you need to check my heart. And then you put me through something, I get to go and get an ultrasound or something that, because I do kind of panic.
Yeah.
So maybe I shouldn't do that.
Maybe
but anyway.
Sometimes there can be too much information, that's for sure.
Yeah, but I'm thankful. Not without, I know I'm getting sappy, but I'm thankful that you've always listened to me and said, well, let's look at so-and-so. Let's run this. Let's do that. You always have.
Yeah, well.
You listen.
I try.
I know you do.
Do you listen?
Yes, when I do a show in a comedy club and somebody comes up and says to me, my husband robbed a Pizza Hut and I've got 3 children. Yes, I listen. I hug them. I tell them, oh my Lord, I've prayed with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I get.
Yeah.
Like you get people that panic and go, I feel fat and I'm going to kill my husband. Yeah, I get people that tell me kind of the same thing, but they're at a comedy club and they're drunk. Speaking of, can I just plug this? Yeah. I know that I'm going to be, and you can look at my website, leannemorgan.com. Please come out and see me if there's somewhere, near. I'm going to be in Phoenix. Where did they just tell me? Palm Beach, Florida, and San Antonio and Austin, Texas. Or just a few of the places. And then there's other things sprinkled in there, but you can go to leannemorgan.com. And I hope my website's working, honey, because I'm going through a lot. But anyway, but yes, I feel like I listen. I don't always, I know I've eaten gluten.
Yeah.
And I know you could whip me.
Yeah.
But I'm getting back off the gluten. I know I've said this to you how many times, but I'm getting off the gluten, and I'm going to be so anti-inflammatory that you're going to lose your mind. And as I sit here and drink a big old Diet Coke, which I was scared to even bring this in front of Karen, but it's hot in Knoxville.
Yeah.
I've had a stressful day.
Yeah.
I needed a big Diet Coke. So anyway, and I knew that I was going to feel terrible about it in front of her, but you've been sweet about it.
Well, moderation is always good.
I know, and I promise I don't drink this big a bucket of Diet Coke every day. I promise I don't.
We were talking about brain health in our last episode, and that book about Alzheimer's, and aspartame is not good for your brain.
So aspartame is a booger.
Not
Is that
good.
why everybody's walking around and don't know what they're doing? Because everything's got
One
aspartame.
of the reasons, probably.
Oh,
Yeah, it's not good.
okay. I don't want Alzheimer's. And I had been on aspartame.
Yeah, but the interesting thing is though, when we're tired and stressed, we drink coffee or sodas, caffeinated drinks, and some highly caffeinated drinks like Red Bulls and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the worst thing you can do for your adrenal gland, because it just stimulates an adrenal gland that's already sort of working hard to keep up with you.
Oh.
So yeah, we tend to do that. We need
And
some
instead
energy.
we
and
need water and a walk, or go stretch or walk out in the woods,
Yeah.
and then come back and drink a cup of herbal tea, right?
Yes.
I can't say that.
Adaptogen?
Adaptogen tea.
Yes.
It's got
Need-
ashwagandha,
Yeah.
or whatever, however you say that. I just found that at CVS next to Vanderbilt.
Ashwagandha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That must do something
Yeah,
good.
ashwagandha is a good adrenal support herb. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, see?
Yeah, I'm this close to knowing something.
You are.
Okay, all right. So I will get off the Diet Coke because and when did that come about? In the 70s, when everybody was smoking cigarettes and drinking Tab.
Yeah.
Everybody's mama was
Tab.
drinking a Tab.
And that stuff tasted terrible. I thought.
I guess I don't know. I liked it, but I didn't drink that much of it. But I remember my mama and her friends sitting around and drinking a Tab, honey, with a big hairpiece on and a light pink gloss after she had done sit-ups in the living room. Lucille, she's so fun. She's still fun, but she hadn't drank Tab in a long time. My mama gave up sodas. Oh, I bet 30 years ago.
For her.
Oh, I know she doesn't care anything about that.
Yeah.
But yes, and then I'll drink a Diet Coke at Vanderbilt Hospital, and my sister will, rip me a new one. So I'm gonna get off of them. Woo, okay. All right. So that's our time for that. I've had a ball. Very informative. Thank you,
I'm
my
going to
Karen.
go take your Diet Coke and dump it in the sink now. See you next time.
Okay, my darling.
Thanks for joining us.
Bye-bye.
Sweaty and pissed, sweaty and pissed. Menopause makes me sweaty and pissed.